Good day, and welcome to Channel 977's Spotlight. Today, the spotlight is on our Fluvanna County Schools. I'm your host, John Platt. Our guest today is Mr. Chuck Winkler, Superintendent of Fluvanna County Schools. Welcome, Chuck, and thanks for taking time out of your busy day to come and have this conversation with us.
Thank you, John. My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
I'd like to also congratulate you on having a very successful, or another successful school year. And now you've been superintendent of Fluvanna County Schools for just over a year. But you've been with Fluvanna County Schools longer than that. So tell us a little bit about your history with Fluvanna County Schools.
Yes, sir. I have been the superintendent now for a year and a half. I was appointed interim superintendent in January of 17. But I'm starting my actually 8th year as in Fluvanna.
Okay. Now, Superintendent, what experiences and education have you had that prepared you for this position as our superintendent?
This is my 30th year in education, John. I actually started as a teacher, a math and science teacher and reading teacher 30 years ago over in Orange County. Went back to school, University of Virginia, and earned my master's and some coursework towards my doctorate. Did some time in the classroom and went on to be an assistant principal, director, and then acting assistant superintendent. And 8 years ago now was appointed assistant superintendent here in Fluvanna. And again, as I said earlier, I've been now acting superintendent for a little over a year and a half.
Well, great. That's super. Now, most of us, and I'm speaking for myself and most of the audience, we are familiar with our principal local school administrators, principals, assistant principals, good or bad, what we've met with them, teachers. But what does this superintendents do?
That's an interesting question, and it's probably all encompassing. I think of myself first and foremost as, and I always will, as a teacher. One of my primary responsibilities is to enforce the policies and the policies that the school board puts into place. I work with all the administration, where there's a lot of state reporting, the liaison for the county with the state superintendent and Department of Education. I have a lot of help, of course, but ensure that the budget is written and documented, along with my staff there at the school board office and the school board itself, along with enforcing the policies. In particular, the policies would be personnel and HR. And once again, I have some wonderful folks that help me out with that.
Oh, okay. So you have a very all-encompassing position there in the county, sort of like the CEO.
That's a very good way to. That's a very good way to put it. It is all-encompassing. I'll do whatever's asked of me to do. It's been a pleasure to be here in Fluvanna. So.
Okay. Now, one of the things that we run into, get a lot of questions about, is the first day of school for students. Now, I know Fluvanna County, the first day of school for teachers, I think, is August 1st. For students, is August 9th. A lot of schools in the state won't start till the end of August, or even until after Labor Day, September 4. What's the philosophy or the reasoning behind starting school early in August? Yeah,
I guess that schedule is becoming more and more. If you look across the Commonwealth, 132 school divisions, more and more of them are going to an earlier start. The original school concept was based on an agrarian society where, kids helped out with and worked the fields, and that concept is no longer with us, of course, within society. But the main part is because we have what's called a 4x4 schedule at the high school level. And with that schedule, it allows us to finish a first semester, which in essence at the high school level, and for all intensive purposes with all the classes, math, all the core subjects, math, English, science, and social studies, as well as our CTE classes, our career and tech, it allows us to get a whole year in one semester. So the early August start, in the last few years we've been starting with students between the 7th and the 10th of August, allows us to finish right before Christmas, or excuse me, the winter break. And then we begin our second semester right after the winter break, which is usually around the 2nd to the 5th of January, and then we're out usually prior to the Memorial Day holiday. It's something as an educator that I'm a huge advocate of, and again, across the Commonwealth, throughout the divisions, there are more and more divisions that are starting earlier and earlier because of this overall concept.
Okay. So now you mentioned 4x4 schedule.
Yes.
Now, for some of our audience, what do you mean? What's a 4x4 schedule?
Yeah, and when I went to high school, for example, we were on a 7-period or an 8-period day. What a 4x4 schedule does is allows us to double up, which we call block. The traditional 7-period or 8-period day was around a 45-minute class period. Our 4x4 works on a 90-minute class period. So the students can take Algebra 2, for an example, and whether they have it every day, Monday through Friday, all throughout the year for 45 minutes, they have it Monday through Friday for 90 minutes, and then they'll start in early August and finish right before Christmas, and allows them to take another block or another class, if you will, the second semester.
Okay, so in a 4x4 schedule, then you could actually take 8 classes in a school year.
That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. And our students do. It gives them an opportunity to earn basically 32 credits. And if they get some early jump on it, particularly in the math area and some of our CTE, they can earn even more high school credits because we do have 8th graders attending our high school.
Okay. Does that allow them to get advanced, like I know the AP program you have there, does that allow them to take the AP courses?
Yeah, it opens up more opportunities for us, not only AP, but dual enrollment classes, again, allows us to expand on our CTE opportunities. If they need a full year, of course we do have examples where you'll need a full year, maybe a cosmetology or even a culinary arts program. It allows them to take literally a full year where they're in it for a 90-minute block and come out with a certified credential.
All right, very good. Okay, so it sounds like it has a lot of advantages to the school system.
Yeah, I think the advantages of a 4x4 and the early start in August, it's my educational experience and opinion, is far as outweigh the traditional, and it's no offense to any school systems that's still practicing the 7-period or the 8-period day at the high school, but that's the main reason behind our early August start.
Okay, good, good. Now, of course, and this goes along with you finish up, of course, in the end of May.
Yeah.
And then June and July basically the teachers are on hiatus, the students are at home on vacation. So what does you and your staff do in June and July? I'm certain you're not sitting back on your in your desk with your feet up. I'm certain of that.
No, I'd like to. Yeah, and I think most people would like to believe that, but that's couldn't be further from the case. I mean, of course, it does give us an opportunity to rest and to get a little bit of relaxation time. But we just finished up a couple of days from an administrative retreat. You start planning for next year. There's a lot of, I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of state reports, so a lot of state reporting that gets done, and there's a lot of checks and balances. You're actually finalizing. Our fiscal year runs from July 1 to June 30th. So you're finalizing that particular fiscal year, and then you're beginning and building and designing and working on the budget and implementing the budget for the following year. You're designing curriculum, you're making curriculum changes, you're meeting with your key teachers. For example, this year we're writing new math assessments over the summer. And we have a lot of opportunities for the students as well. We have Kids College, and if I get an opportunity, I'll highlight that in a little while. But we have extended school year for students with our special needs. Just a lot of planning and preparation goes into the summer. And it's not something most people say, what do you do during the summer? There's a lot of work that goes into the summer and getting ready for next school year.
Okay, all right, okay. So you're not sitting back just with your feet up.
No,
you're very busy. Okay, okay. All right, okay. Now you just mentioned Kids College amongst some of the other summer programs that you have. What is this? I've seen the flyer about Kids College. Is it involved with the STEM program too? Is that?
We do have some STEM activities that take place, as well as the arts, as well as reading, literacy. We work with PVCC, the Piedmont Virginia Community College, and we have about 110 students that attend from the Fluvanna area. And it's just an extra opportunity for enrichment, and there's a little bit of remediation, but it's more of an enrichment opportunity. An academic summer camp, if you will, although it's not called that whatsoever. Very proud of it. Very proud of Mrs. Dahl's one of our directors at the central office, and she helps coordinate that, and again works with the administration at PVCC. And we're reaching about 110 students this summer.
Okay, all right. So some of the teachers are busy in the summer?
Absolutely. We get some teachers that come in and teach the classes as well through Kids College.
Okay. What ages are the Kids College now? What ages are those?
We have some older students, but primarily K-8.
K-8.
Yeah, K-8. But we do have some older students taking advantage of it as well.
Okay. Yeah. Speaking of K-8, now I was looking at the state statistics, and I saw PK. Now do you have pre-kindergarten students in Fluvanna?
Yes, we have three what's called pre-K programs, and they are mandated cap sizes. So there's 18, so we have 54 total students from around the county, and there's some various criteria that you have to meet that the state sets out to attend a pre-K program.
Okay. All right. I didn't realize that until I looked at the website. Okay. Now, this year, there's been some news on the TV and the newspapers with respect to school security. I know that you have had your situation with the national school walkout, which we can talk about that, and you had a social media threat this year. I read about, but has Fluvanna County made any or planning to make any major changes to their building modifications with regard to school security?
Well, we try to be as proactive as possible when we're looking at school security. The safety and well-being of the students and staff is my primary concern and my primary responsibility. In the past few years, we've been working with the state and the federal government and applied to several grants. And we've added some additional security procedures, if you will. All of our entryways are locked. We have a sign-in procedure where you come in and out of the front office. We work very closely with the local sheriff's department, and we have some school resource officers. We've brought back the DARE program into our elementary schools. We're continuing to work with the sheriff's department as well as the state, hoping to get a third school resource officer program. We've done a lot of type of counseling. We've hired additional guidance counselors, additional school psychologists to treat what's happening actually in society, where there's more and more mental health issues, and those mental health issues, for whatever reason, are actually starting at an earlier age. And responding to that, trying to be preventative, if you will, and proactive to it. We know we're not completely immune to what's happening out there in society, and my heart and certainly goes out to those that have been touched by some of the very severe tragedies. And I do pray and work every day and hope that it never happens here in Fluvanna. But the realistic point of view is, if you look what's happening across the nation and probably across the globe, that violence is linked back to some type of mental health issue. So again, trying to be preventative, trying to put some of those things in place, trying to educate our teachers, trying to educate our entire staff, cafeteria workers, bus drivers, everything. This year, like I said, we met earlier in the month. We had a retreat. One of our main focuses is going to be establishing relationships and building stronger relationships, dealing with students in trauma, dealing with students with mental health issues, but focusing on that from a whole village aspect. Okay. And again, very proud of our efforts and looking forward to another successful year.
Okay, so you're trying to get at the problem at the base rather than waiting until it comes out in some sort of violent act.
Absolutely, and I'll say this, and would like to go on record, schools across the nation, despite what you see and despite what you read in social media and may see on various aspects of social media, schools are still one of the safest places, and actually the safest place statistically for children. And I would include Fluvanna up there with some of the safest and the greatest schools in America.
Okay. All right. Now you mentioned the DARE program. Would you want to elaborate on that a little bit for our audience?
Well, the DARE program has been around for several years. I mean, all the way back into the late 80s and early 90s. I'm not sure when it was first inception, but it has kind of gone by the wayside for whatever reason here in Fluvanna over the last several years. And we're bringing it back, working closely with Sheriff Hess, working closely with his captains and his lieutenants, and as well as our school resource officers to bring it back. We have a wonderful relationship with our SROs and again with the local law enforcement agency, and they've been reaching out, but we've brought it back to the case where we're actually back into schools doing lessons. When I first taught, I actually taught 30 years ago. 5th grade, and once a week, it was on a Wednesday, I'll never forget it, 9 o'clock in the morning, the DARE officer would come in and do some type of drug, substance abuse, say no to alcohol, say no to, what tobacco and those type of things. But it was more about building those relationships and building those relationships early on. We're taking that program into Carysbrook, which is our 3-4 school, and want to continue to take it all the way down, work with our guidance counselors, again, our school psychologists, our school administration, all the way down into West Central and Central. Very proud of the efforts, but hoping to get to, more resources to continue it here in Fluvanna.
Okay. All right, good. Glad to hear we're working on those programs. Now, school resource officer, does every school in Fluvanna County have a school resource officer? You alluded to the fact that there were 2 and hoping to get a 3rd, and I know there's 4 schools, so somehow I figure that
yeah, we have one main school resource officer at the high school, and it's posted and stationed at the high school, I'll say for the most part, all the time while the students are there. And then there's one, and there's always, again, I mentioned Sheriff Hess earlier, and so grateful for his partnership with the schools and local law enforcement, and he's extended, resources beyond, but we have one other school resource officer right now, full-time school resource officer that works at the middle school, but also handles both of our elementary schools, as well as Abrams, which is our alternative school as well. So
yeah. Now, again, for the school resource officer is a member of the sheriff's office, right?
That is correct. That is correct.
And how do their duties in the school system, especially at the high school, we hear all these, again, social media and some of those other places about the school resource or the police officer in the high school. But what are the duties or the assignment that the school resource officer has, especially at the high school level, let's say?
Yeah, and again, we work very closely with the Sheriff's Department itself and administration within the Sheriff's Department on those duties. But the term resource in the resource officer is exactly what this person's main responsibilities are for us. They help us out with anything from traffic control to helping us with safety, organizing graduation and how to make it run smoothly, if there's any safety threats. We have a pretty active and I'll say robust camera system throughout the schools now, but one of the primary responsibilities of the school resource officer, particularly at the high school, is to monitor that camera equipment. They're out at lunch duties. Anytime there's transition, they're out in the halls. The most important thing that I could ask them to do is continue to build those relationships with those students. And again, very happy and very proud of our resource officers.
So they're working with the students more on a relationship building.
That's correct.
Aspect. They're not really there for discipline as opposed to like if a teacher has a problem with a student in the class, like, Billy won't be quiet, so I'm going to send him to the resource. That doesn't happen.
That's not at all. That's actually not part of their responsibility at all.
Yeah.
If the resource officer is called in, that's because 9 times out of 10, and I want to say 10 times out of 10, but I'm also, again, reality is a crime is either getting ready to be committed or has been committed, so we call them in as a resource. One of the primary responsibilities of the admin at the school level is to address the discipline at the school level. Again, if they need assistance, if there's a possibility of a legal issue, then we'll call in the school resource officer for assistance.
So that's sort of like the in loco parentis that we hear about with the teachers and stuff like that in the place of parents. That's how they function, but that's not the case of the resource officer.
That's correct.
Yeah.
When we use loco parentis, the administration would actually step in and serve as loco parentis if there was some type of legal issue that came up, a violation of the law. The resource officer had to get involved. Then the principal, assistant principal, school-based administration would then step in and be loco parentis until the parent got there.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Budget.
Yes, sir.
We always are interested to hear about the school budget. And an interesting thing, I know in Virginia, the school boards have no taxing power. So they have got to go with a hat in hand to the Board of Supervisors requesting money. So how'd we do this year?
We did very well, and that's in large part because we have such a collegial relationship now with local administrator, Mr. Nichols, is wonderful, very supportive of our system. His assistant and Mr. Eric Dahl, the Board of Supervisors. We now have a strong relationship, a trusting relationship, one where we can go and talk to each other. And we began working on the budget together collectively, the school board, myself, my finance director, as well as the Board of Supervisors and the county administration, clear back in, I would say as early as late October, first part of November last year. And we, I won't say we fared fairly well, but we have a good supportive budget looking at FY19 and moving to next year. Just proportionate-wise, about 43% of our budget, and next year we'll have right about $40.5 million budget. So you're looking at $17.4 million that we get from the locality. 21 million, and I'm approximate, is coming from the state, which is about 52%. 1.2 million comes from the federal government, and another 1 million comes from other local revenue. Again, our locality, our relationship that we have, and that started well before I took office. We just are working together, and we're communicating. And if there is a problem that comes up, I haven't seen anything within a year and a half that we can't work through together. So I'm very grateful for the relationship that we have with the school board, with the Board of Supervisors, myself with the Board of Supervisors, and myself with the county administration. Yeah,
I mean, you read the paper about other school districts, and their Board of Supervisors and the school boards are sort of at opposite ends.
Yeah, at odds at times. Yes, yeah.
So we're glad to hear that that you all are working together and for the betterment of the school system, no question, and the betterment of the county, obviously.
Sir. Okay. Yes, sir.
Surely. Okay. One of the other things that is often discussed is testing. And you hear, especially if you get on YouTube or social media, about there's too much testing in the schools, too much taken away from instructional time. I have a son who's an English teacher, and he and I discussed this subject quite a bit. So what's happening with the testing program in Virginia, especially with respect to instructional time and the required testing, I should say, yes.
Yeah, Virginia standards, first of all, I think there's this fallacy out there that the Virginia standards of learning are bad. As an educator and an educator of 30 years, I fundamentally and wholeheartedly agree with the standards. In many cases, those standards are minimum competencies. And Virginia has been very progressive and has been one that continues to do well if you look at from a nation standpoint and you look on national-based testing. But the Virginia Standards of Learning, their first inception, their first tests were given out in 1998. I don't think they're going to go anywhere, but in the last few years, the Department of Education, Virginia Department of Education, has been cognizant of the fact that there are issues and it is under constant scrutiny. We've gone from 34, 35 plus testing and back in the early 2000s, late 90s, it was even more than that. We've gone from 34 down to 29. One of the other things that the Department of Education is doing, and under Every Student Succeeds Act, under ESSA, is they're looking at the revamping and they're looking at the profile of a graduate and going back to the 5 C's with critical thinking, creative thinking, communication, collaboration, and citizenship. Now, when you look at testing, it is such high stakes because the accountability piece is linked to it, and that's where it draws a whole lot of criticism. But at the end of the day, it's just one measure. It's one measure of success. It's one measure of our success. Once again, one of my great prides of this county is we continue to be fully accredited, and it looks like, looking at our data and looking at everything, that we'll be accredited for the 5th year in a row coming up. Again, the state's revamping a couple of things, and they're adding project-based assessments. They're adding computer-assisted assessments. And I don't want to think they're not watering down the curriculum. It's in response to some of the criticisms that they continue to hear, and making some instructional decisions that are what I see as best for kids.
Okay, so the testing program is at the state levels is continually going under review, and they're checking it out and changing it as needed and to upgrade it. Okay.
Yeah, and along with that, I mean, you're talking about a review. You have a Department of Education, along with it, we have a new state superintendent right now, and Dr. James Lane. I'm looking forward to working with James. I've worked with him in some other capacities. Yeah, they listened. It doesn't mean just because you complain and they don't react and do that something is wrong or they're not listening. But they've continued to be responsive to the concerns from both not only the community, but the the superintendents across the state, as well as the curriculum writers. I mean, they revamp the standards every 7 years. Some of them are minor tweaks, some of them are major tweaks.
Okay, all right. Okay, and these are used. How are these used to evaluate the school? You know, you said that's one part of it, but there's obviously other things that they use to evaluate the schools. So what?
Yeah, so we have, from an overall state standpoint, you have attendance, you have, we've turned in a discipline, crime, and violence report, so you get feedback on that. Overall, highly qualified staff, having all your teachers with license. This is how the state is using that in accreditation. Once again, the standards of learning test is the main reason and the main source of an evaluatory information that the state has, but there's some other things, on-time graduation rate, all of those things kind of factor in. It's another highlight of ours that we've done very well in Fluvanna. But we use the state test in a variety of different formats. Again, you look at overall testing, you look at how student success. One of the things that the state's also allowing for now is a growth measure. If Johnny or Susie may not have passed the test the year before, but did they gain? Did they go up? And many times you're comparing apples to, to oranges a little bit, but did they make progress? I'm very proud of the state. Once again, we voiced a concern. The state has continued to look at that. Are you accredited? They've allowed for retest now, again, an opportunity because it's one day. It's a snapshot in time of where Johnny and Susie is. And we all know on any given day, we might take a test and it might not be our best day, so the state's been responsive to that as well. From an evaluatory standpoint, it's only one piece or several pieces, depending on the testing situation, that we use to look at our staff. I use it to help evaluate. I use it as part of my evaluation. I turn that into the school board. Right now, I'm actively involved in administrative evaluations, principal evaluations, directors evaluations. We're using that data to say, how did you do? Where are we on our special needs students? Did we make progress there? Did we meet the total accountability standard, if you will? So.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Well, Mr. Winkler, thank you for being here. And I know there's so many good things happening in Fluvanna County schools that we can't surely touch on all of them. So I'd like to give you a chance to brag about our Fluvanna County schools at this time.
Well, first and foremost, I want to brag on our staff and our students. Again, I've been here, I'm starting my 8th year, and I absolutely love it here in Fluvanna, and that's in large part because of the staff and the students and the overall community. So, I mean, we just have a wonderful group of kids, if you will, and teachers and staff. And I'm not just talking about teachers, I'm talking about all of our staff. I talk with the bus drivers every year, several times. I'm out on bus loops and just tell them, you're the first person they see and the last face they see, but I greatly appreciate what you do each and every day. We're doing great work in technology. We're revamping the state standards, the state technology standards, to what we call FITS, which is our Fluvanna technology standards, and implementing those, using all the new technology that we have. We're trying to do a one-to-one initiative with Chromebooks this year. I believe we'll have it in place, meaning that you'll have one as a student, I'll have one as a student within the high school. It'll be more like 1 to 2, all the way down to the elementary levels, but whenever possible, certainly within math or language arts, reading, if you will, we're trying to go to a one-to-one initiative. So great things happen. We have interactive panels in most, not all, but most of our classrooms now, certainly from Carysbrook on up. Again, so students are exposed. If you look at where the society is going, it's the use of technology. Training our teachers to be able to use those, but more importantly, training our students to be able to move forward in the 21st century. Along with the science and technology is our what we call STEAM labs, because we incorporated the arts in the STEM project now. Want to send a shout out to the Rotary, the local Rotary, for their help in getting our STEAM lab in place at not only West Central, but just recently at Carysbrook. We've been accredited, as I said, one of 22 divisions across the state. There's 132 school divisions, 4 years in a row, based on our state testing. We had a regional First time ever, Regional Teacher of the Year last year, and Mr. Jennings, who teaches agriculture for us. Our baseball, our Region 3 baseball team, they won the region for the first time ever. They fell short down at the semifinals against a great Abington team. I was down there. It was a great day. I'm very proud of our boys and the coaches. State champs 2 times now in the last 3 years with our forensic team, which is more of debate and speech type of thing. Our on-time graduation rate, 4th in the state, number 4 in the state, Little Fluvanna, 97.4%. All of our CTE programs continue to be robust. We're continuing to train kids from carpentry, electrical, cosmetology, culinary arts, engineering, just a wealth of programs and a lot of good staff. Our SAT scores continue to be above the state and national average. Our Hands-On Fluvanna program, reaching out across this entire community to many businesses, just volunteering the kids. And that's a high school effort that's just literally traveled around, anything from picking up litter along the highways to doing some building work and helping out, SBCA and all those things. We started a couple years ago, and this is thanks to and she's going to be departing us, going to be leaving us. She's actually heading to Charlottesville, our special ed director. She brought in something called the Medford Games, where our special needs students have an opportunity to compete with some of the local counties around us in basketball. We branched out into track and field this past year as well. And again, I'll end how I started. I'm just so proud. I'm just blessed to be here in Fluvanna because we have a very dedicated, caring staff, our teachers, our entire faculty, and such a wonderful student body. So very proud of Fluvanna.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for being with us today.
No, you're my pleasure. Thank you so much, sir.
Oh, you dropped.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our thanks to Mr. Winkler for being here today and for his efforts in making Fluvanna County Schools one for which we can be very proud. A reminder that this program will be repeated on channel 977 and uploaded to YouTube. On behalf of the Lake Monticello Broadcast Group, I'm John Platt. Our time is up. I thank you for yours. Thanks for tuning in. So long.